Welcome to Downshift, everyone. My name is Paulo.
And my name is Matt. We've spent the last week with Kia's... From the top.
That's the shoes.
It's the shoes. Like a slight breeze.
What happened?
I don't know.
Welcome to Downshift, everyone. My name is Paulo.
And my name is Matt, and we have spent the last week with Kia's Sportage Hybrid. This one is the SX Prestige trim, so it's the top of the top, and there's a lot to love about it, but it's not perfect, so I'm going to walk you through the best and the rest.
Yes, I'm going to get behind the wheel and talk about some of the standouts for the week, so let's get into it.
Now the first thing that we're going to talk about is a little subjective, and by that I mean it's entirely subjective, and it's the styling here, and I think you'd all probably agree that it's fairly polarizing. Now one of the cool things is we do have the shadow matte gray paint, which does look cool when it's clean, but I drove it through the rain yesterday and now it looks filthy. So if you spec the matte paint, just make sure that you're willing to expend the requisite effort to keep it clean. But you do have LED headlights standard on all trims, and Kia's new design language, like I mentioned, will show up next year. So this is kind of the last year of the squinty pinched face. But you do have LED fogs for your SX trim, which was nice and I used the other day as it was raining. And the profile shape shows you just how big this thing is. This is one of the biggest in the class, at least in terms of wheelbase and length, much like its Hyundai counterpart. You do have 18-inch wheels on your top SX Prestige trim here, and you've got black accents all throughout the car, and your C-pillar has a little bit of a textured detail. Your rear design, it's pretty clean, at least until you get to the diffuser, but I think you'd all agree that this is a pretty funky design, and if it's not for you, just maybe wait a year and see if you like the new design, because it's a little bit more subdued and it's a little bit more, let's say, traditionally handsome. And this is going to sound a little bit like a Honda video, but there's just a handful of missing items or features here. One, and the most egregious, is the lack of wireless Apple CarPlay. This is the top trim, and not in like the base powertrain, and yet we still don't have wireless Apple CarPlay. You have to plug in with a cord like it's 2017 or something. Ultimately, this isn't going to be a huge deal. This is not necessarily a new thing that we've seen in some of the Hyundai Kia products of the last generation, but I would expect a wireless CarPlay system as this thing gets updated into its new facelift next year. And like with anything, there's just a handful of tiny little nitpicks. Like for one, and really the most annoying thing that I experienced, is the shape of the steering column kind of hangs down a little bit. So I hit my knee on it every single time I get in or out of the car. I've got the seat all the way down and the steering column all the way up, but I still hit my knee and just graze it right there, which is a little unpleasant. Also, the center console is made of a little bit too much of piano black and it's already starting to scratch. The engine sounds a little ticky/knocky, but you know, it's not like the RAV4 hybrid sounds super good. And ultimately, it looks good, and it looks good on the inside, but driving down the road, there's maybe a little rattle here or rattle there, so it doesn't feel quite as solidly built as maybe like a Mazda. But with all those little nitpicks covered, let's talk about all the great things about this Kia Sportage hybrid, because there's plenty. One of my favorite things is just the amount of options. You can kind of have this car however you want it. You can have a normal gas or turbo car, you can have a hybrid car, or you can have a plug-in hybrid car. Now, what we have here is kind of the Goldilocks zone in the middle. We've got the hybrid here. So it's a 1.6 turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, and it makes 227 horsepower. That's pretty good for the class. That's my RAV4 hybrid makes like 219. So this is definitely packing, well, it's not a lot, but a little bit more. But it's also packing 258 pound-feet of torque, which is significantly more than my RAV4 hybrid. The battery pack is also bigger than most of the others in the segment at 1.5 kilowatt hours versus like 1.1, I think, in the CR-V. And fuel economy is pretty good. 38 mpg is what the EPA says. If you go for front wheel drive, you'll get up to 43 mpg. Pretty good. We did our Lakeshore Loop fuel economy test and got about 38.7 mpg. So pretty in line with the EPA. And the estimate with a full tank then is about 450 miles of range, which is pretty incredible. And it's kind of what you would expect. It's a pretty fuel efficient thing. Now, granted, I have been driving it since then, and the MPG has gone down and down and down with real world driving, but still, you kind of get my point. And then you consider that you can get the plug-in hybrid version of this car, and not even for like crazy money. Like a topped out Honda CR-V hybrid starts at more money than where the plug-in hybrid of this starts. And the plug-in hybrid with this gets you 34 miles of just electric range, and then it becomes just a hybrid like we have here with the 38.7 mpg or thereabouts. And on top of all of that, you don't have a CVT, you have a 6-speed automatic transmission with real gears, and you don't have all-wheel drive, you have a real mechanical all-wheel drive system, and you have this button here to lock your center differential. So old school purists, you're gonna love this thing. And also, if you're ever off-road, which I'm not really sure why you'd be in this thing, it's gonna be helpful to you to have that center locking diff and real all-wheel drive system. And when we talk about the trunk or cargo space, this is a huge pro for the Kia Sportage. This is an enormous trunk, basically the biggest in the segment. Now, obviously, you have powered open and close feature, although you don't have a separate button for close and lock, so keep that detonator style key with you. Now, with the seats up, you're looking at 39.5 cubic feet of space. That is the biggest in the class off the top of my head. The only one that might kind of get close is the Hyundai counterpart, the Tucson. Now, one of the nice things though about this, and what I don't have in my CR-V hybrid, is a spare tire. You've got a spare tire underneath your trunk floor here in your Sportage, which is fantastic. Another thing that I really like here is you can fold the rear seats with these levers back here. You don't have to reach all the way up to the back of the rear seats to then fold them down. When you fold them down, you're looking at 74 cubic feet of cargo space, which again is class leading. The only thing that I don't love is once those seats are folded down, they're locked in position, so you have to go around to the rear seats and then grab the little latch, unlock them, and then you can fold them back up. But overall, you've got hangers back here, you've got a 12 volt back here, the space is huge, and it just works really well. And then we'll touch on the driving experience. It's on the pro side of the video because it's subjectively fine. It's good, it's fine. It's not terrible. Should it have a CVT? Most of the hybrids in this class do. Honestly, no. Like, the 6-speed is not clunky. There's not a huge torque kick when the engine turns on versus when you're in EV mode, so it actually works pretty well. The engine isn't as thrashy or as coarse as the RAV4 engine that I have, but it is a little bit ticky or knocky when you start to kind of wring this thing out. So it's not quite as refined as, say, the Honda hybrid system. The turbo here isn't super peaky, so you're not waiting an hour for the boost to spool and then ride off in a tsunami of torque. It's pretty even keel. It's a pretty inoffensive driving experience. The steering is pretty light, but the body control is good, and it feels athletic even in eco mode. It feels torquey and kind of peppy. The seating position is a little high for my taste, and I do hit my knee on this steering column, which is wildly annoying. But one of the things that really stood out to me more than I was expecting to see is the way that the hybrid system works in the real world here. Now, this system is more like the Toyota hybrid system than the Honda system, and yet it behaves in the real world a little bit more like the Honda system. And what I mean by that is it kind of wants you to accelerate hard, get over the speed that you're wanting to go, and then take your foot off and coast a little bit, and then it'll put itself into EV mode. That's a very Honda thing I've noticed with our CR-V hybrid. You accelerate beyond the speed you actually want to go, and then coast, and then it'll put itself into EV mode, rather than gradually accelerating up to the speed that you want to go, because then it just really kind of seems reluctant to put itself into EV. Additionally, this thing is not super efficient on the highway. Over 70 miles an hour, it's not a fan. Over probably under 65 and throughout town, it's nice and efficient, especially when you do some coasting and some braking, you get that EV mode going. But on the highway, the Toyota is definitely the most efficient. But this is smooth, drives pretty well, the ride is pretty good. It's good behind the wheel. And then as we talk about the rear seats, they're enormous. I have an ocean of knee room in front of me. I'm sitting behind myself at 6'1" as well. I've got plenty of headroom even with my nub. You guys know I'll like that. And then you have a huge panoramic roof, so it doesn't even really eat into your headroom that much, and it brings some light in to this carmine red or brown interior. It's an interesting color, this carmine, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But you do have hangers on the back of the front seats. You've got USB-C chargers in the back of the front seats, dual map pockets, some vents, some storage, and you have a clever little rubberized hanger thing, so maybe if you bring an iPad you can drape it over this little hanger here, and it's really nice. You don't have heated rear seats, which is a little bit of a miss. You can get it in the RAV4 and I think even the Hyundai, but maybe that's what Hyundai saved for themselves. Also, the ambient light doesn't really continue back here, but you can, where's the little lever? You can recline the seats back here. So overall, the rear seats are pretty good. They're not perfect. They're missing a couple things to be the ultimate leader in every single box to tick, but the space and the comfort, it's bang on here. And we will talk about the cabin experience. Now, this is something that the internet seems to ding Kia and Hyundai for, but the truth is, it's fine. The seats here on our SX Prestige, we've got 2-person memory, we've got 3-level heated, 3-level cooled, there's a button for each, and we have a heated steering wheel, which is a hard button, there's a hard button for. The interior itself looks pretty good. It's kind of this faux leather, this carmine red interior is unique to our SX Prestige Hybrid here, and it's cool. It gives a little bit sense of kind of uniqueness. And the uniqueness continues in things like the door card. We've got like a bottle opener style door pull. The vents are a little bit of an interesting shape, so everything kind of has personality. All of the stuff, well, I guess there's the annoying toggle thing to control either media stuff or climate stuff, but you can't have both and you can't access both at the same time. But you do have hard buttons on your center console, like I said, but it's not perfect. You know, there's scratchy plastics on your center console, and the top of your center console is made entirely of gloss black, which is not my favorite and is already starting to scratch a little bit. But you have ambient lighting in here, the seats are comfortable, the ride is good, the visibility is good. I feel like I'm sitting in something that's definitely not bargain bin. It's pretty good. And of course, we're going to talk about price on the Pro side, or value on the Pro side, and that's pretty standard when doing a Kia review. Now, like I said, there's 3 different flavors that you can get your Sportage in. The non-hybrid starts at just over $27,000, but for the hybrid, it's just about $29,000, so just under $2,000 for the hybrid, so I really recommend it. And the SX Prestige trim that we're in starts at $38K. As tested, we're at $39,730, but when you consider like the RAV4 and the CR-V, both start at more money and can be optioned up higher than this. This thing really starts to look like a value. I mean, you consider like my Sport Touring top trim CR-V hybrid starts at $41,100. You can get into a plug-in hybrid Sportage here for $40,000. So you can have a plug-in hybrid with dedicated electric range, and you can save yourself, in essence, like $1,000. So yeah, there's a lot of value to be had here with this Kia. But then when we talk about things like technology, this is generally a place where Kia and Hyundai shine. They generally lead the segment. You can get anything that you want. And that's not quite the case here. Although you can get most of what you want. You're not going to get a head-up display, which is a little bit interesting, although it's not super necessary for a class like this. But you do have the fully digital instrument cluster, which is great. I actually really like the way that they've integrated this like landscape, like daytime scene into the background. And then as I drive, like if you're leaving work, then it'll give you a sunsetting scene. Then if you go to the gym after dinner or something, or go out to dinner at night with your partner, it'll be like a starry night kind of thing. It's just kind of cool. Is it a gimmick? Yeah. But is it cool? Also, yeah. But over here you have your big 12-inch infotainment system, and it's kind of the classic Hyundai Kia fare. The black levels are good, the colors are very vibrant, processing speed is really good, it's not laggy, but it is missing a big thing, and that's wireless Apple CarPlay. We already talked about that a bit, so we won't harp on it too much. But you kick it into reverse, you've got great 360 cameras, some of the best in the class, if not definitely the best in the class. You've got a hybrid page, so you can keep track of your battery condition, if you're deploying power or recouping power. It's really pretty nice. You've got quiet mode, so if you've got kids in the back, you can just kill the speakers in the back with the press of a button. You've also got the split screen thing, so you can have Spotify and also navigation on the same screen at the same time. It's really pretty nice. And the safety suite that you get here, the HDA, really pretty good. The lane keep is very confident, the adaptive cruise is very good, and it'll let you leave your hands off the wheel for like 60 seconds, which is, it's a pretty long time for not having like an eyeball watcher here. So overall tech, not too bad. Then a couple odds and ends. You have the classic Kia detonator style key, and you do have Smart Park, which is, I guess, something that people want. I don't know, kind of a gimmick. But one of the things that's really nice about this Sportage is you have 2,000 pounds of towing capacity, which makes it the most for any hybrid in the class, I believe. And yeah, you still have your turn signal blind spot cameras, one for each side. And you have Harman Kardon audio, which actually sounds pretty good. And one of the things that I like is you have these spin out cup holders. So if you have a normal size water bottle, like something like this, you can spin this out and it holds it nice and snug. But you can flip this back, and if you have a bigger water bottle, it can take up this space. And you can put them both away if you want to just have a big open cubby to store stuff. So nice versatility. You might think these may be kind of flimsy or weak over time, but actually these have held up pretty well in my parents' Hyundai. And this button right here is important. This says 12-volt battery reset, and essentially what it will do is if your car dies and you need to jump start, you can actually press this button and it'll take some energy, it'll siphon some energy off of the hybrid battery, the high voltage battery, and use it to recharge or re-spark your 12-volt battery and get you going, so you don't need to get the jumper cables out. That is pretty nice. But with with all that covered, let's go for a bit of a drive. Hey guys, real quick, Matt here. Just wanted to say I hope you've been enjoying the video. If you have, would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it does go a long way in helping us get access to cars sooner and get access to manufacturer engineers so we can get more information on the cars and get you more information so you can make better decisions. So would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe, like, comment, the whole YouTube thing. But with that, let's get back to the video.
Sportage.
Is it in sports mode?
It is not. Now it is.
Now it is.
I gotta tell you what, it actually doesn't sound that bad.
There's a little tickiness from the engine, depending on your specific RPM. It's kind of like in the middle. So if you give it a little bit more throttle than you normally would, but not enough throttle to like try to be Sportage-y, then there's a little bit of tickiness. But other than that, it's pretty good. It's a 1.6 turbo with the high breezy.
Yeah, you have a 6-speed here.
Yep. And based on our testing for our fuel economy loop, this is kind of bang in the middle between the RAV4 efficiency and the CRV efficiency for like real world. Now, granted, both the RAV4 and the CRV we did when it was under freezing, and this one we did over, but it came back with like 37.8 or 38.7? I don't know, something like that. Yeah. So pretty good. Now, since then, it's not been getting that well, but 34 is still pretty good for mixed driving.
Yeah, and I mean, this thing has a massive fuel tank. I think it's like 450 miles.
Yeah, on a full tank, this thing was estimating about like 450 mile range, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. Pretty awesome. That's something that you don't get in the CRV. You get like a smaller tank, so you still have like barely 300 miles. Especially if you do any highway, you'll have like 100 miles out of the tank. Yeah. But we'll talk about that in a different video. We'll have head-to-heads with this Sportage versus the RAV4 and then versus the CRV, so that'll come separately. But let's talk about the things that stood out to you behind the wheel of the Sportage this week.
Yeah, so I'll start on the exterior, and I feel like it's pretty polarizing. And I don't really know why. Like, I think it looks okay. It definitely doesn't look as normal as some of the other cars within this segment, like the RAV4 or CRV. But I personally really like the refresh in the 26. Yeah, the mid-cycle refresh. Yeah, it looks
that's coming next year.
Really, really good. I'd recommend checking out some photos of that, or potentially waiting, because I think that is the style to get for sure. And then in terms of the interior, like, I think it has a lot of nice features that I really like. So nice and modern infotainment system. You have, I think they're both 12.3 digital screen and then infotainment system. The ambient lighting is really nice.
Yeah, that's not something that you usually get from everything in this class.
Correct.
You don't really get it in the RAV4, you don't get it in the CRV, you don't get it in... Do you get it in Equinox? I don't know, it doesn't matter. But yeah, you get ambient light here, which is nice, and you get custom color. So it's not just like 8 different colors. Right. And 64.
Some of the other things that you get, which is really nice that some of the other competitors don't have, cooled seats, pano roof, really good 360 cameras.
Yes. I would say the best 360 cameras in the segment right now.
Yeah, I think like
the Mazda's not bringing it in the hybrid, the CRV's not bringing it.
What they offer from like a tech perspective, it's really, really good bang for your buck when you start comparing even, you know, starting pricing and top trim level pricing to some of the competitors. Like it offers a lot from an interior perspective, definitely in terms of the comfort and amenity features that you get here.
Yeah, I would totally agree. This is kind of Kia's bag, right? They, like, Mazda's whole thing is like design language and like really nice interior. Toyota's about efficiency and reliability, but Kia's like, I'm gonna give you everything for the least amount of money. Like, we're gonna be a value play. And they do it really well. Yeah. And normally, like, you think of like a value option, you think, okay, well, like, it's going to be a bucket of bolts, or it's not going to be that nice. It's pretty nice. I mean, there's some scratchy plastics, and some things feel a little bit hollow. This is way too much, gloss black. But
I was going to say some of the negatives from the interior. You only get wired Apple CarPlay, so USB, and it's also USB. It's not even USB-C. I think they're fixing that for the next mid-cycle refresh next year. A bit creaky of like a center console, and then the piano black obviously is going to show fingerprints. And to your point, things just feel a little bit hollow, and like it's got good stuff. I just worry the longevity of like some of the buttons and the creakiness of some of the materials that they used. But yeah, it has a really good warranty, especially compared to some of the other individuals within this.
What are you trying to say?
Segment as
Class?
Well. Class, yeah, there we go. I'll talk about the ride for a second. So we kind of mentioned it, but like I think it has really good pickup. It doesn't sound that bad. No. The driving experience, I think, is like within a few degrees within the segment. Like there really isn't major differences between this and some of the competitors. Like maybe if you're an enthusiast, you're definitely gonna lean a certain direction, like the CR-V, for example, but like it's just so marginal to me. Like this is a decent ride. I think the only thing that I'd knock it in terms of the ride is it does feel a bit unsettled over like extremely bumpy roads, or like there's one-off potholes that I hit and it just feels really unsettled to me.
Yeah, I think the only thing that really stuck out to me when I did my initial drive was the steering does feel light. And
it does feel
and obviously
light.
Everything in this class largely feels light aside from the Mazda and the Honda.
If you put it in sport, it gets heavier though.
So that's good. I probably should have done that.
Yeah.
I think I was in like Smart or something. But other than that, yeah, the damping is good. It rides in between like the CR-V and the RAV4 XSE. I think it's kind of that, it's a good balance in between there. So it's a nice comfortable ride, but it actually does feel pretty dynamic. Like there's a good front end to it. It dives into a corner fairly well. It doesn't fall over. It's not a huge amount of body roll, so I think it drives perfectly fine.
Well, yeah, and you have a legitimate all-wheel drive system here.
Yeah, mechanical all-wheel drive.
Exactly,
with a center locking differential.
Yeah, so that's also a nice feature as well. The drawback there, though, is that you can never really disengage the rear wheels to get more efficiency gains, but...
Yeah, that's part of the reason that the RAV4 with its all-wheel drive system is going to be more efficient, because it can just not send power to those other wheels in the back and then just use that e-motor to then get like electric range or fuel economy, whatever.
Yeah, but I think if I were to wrap it up, I think that this is a really good value proposition for the money. They still currently have really good warranties. I would just personally probably wait until the next year mid-cycle refresh, but really enjoyed the week with this thing. Yeah,
no, 100%. I totally agree. It's great value. I think I would put it, this and if we're going to lump the Hyundai in with it, the Tucson, I would say those two are within the top 3 of the class. So we'll talk about that more a little bit as we compare it to the CR-V and the RAV4.
Yeah,
some subsequent videos. So
check those videos out.
All right, we'll see you guys later.
Thanks, guys.